Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your hosts, U.S. Air Force veterans Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as they will bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your hosts, Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Frontline. My name is Jay Johnson, one of your hosts for this incredible podcast, and I am joined in studio, by two people, but I'm going to introduce the first one that you're used to, that you've grown to love and appreciate, the one and only Miss Donna Hoffmeyer. Donna, what's going on?
Oh, my Lord. Hello. That was a nice intro.
Yeah, sometimes, the BS just flows. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Nodding her head.
She's not. No, she's probably going to hold me to account for that comment. That's what's going to happen.
She knows the BS flows.
Well, that part she will validate. There's no doubt. She would validate that. What's going on with you?
My Lord, everything. We're just running. So kids are in track and field, and one just got sick, so she's home with dad right now. And yeah, we don't know. She tested negative for everything, but the doctor's like, the flu's going around, so he just threw some Tamiflu at her. Little steroids, called her good. And as a nurse, I'm like, yep, that works. We don't want to deal with it. So she's home resting, dad's home with her and doing all that good stuff. And I'm just running around with business and nonprofits and I don't know, all these things.
Doing the things you do, Donna.
That
you're good at, that you like to do. Maybe not the taking care of a sick child part. That's no fun.
No, that's not. Not. But I do get my fingers in a lot of things, and people are always like, "How did you get involved?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it leads into who we're talking to today.
I know. Well, and that's fun too for me, Donna. I reflect back. I think it's been about 3 years now that we've known each other.
Happenstance, right?
Happenstance, and looking at your transition from the military, from active duty reserve time to where you are today, and you kind of hanging with me as I went out and did some things. And now I'm sitting back thinking, man, we've unleashed a weapon on society, right? I mean, in a good way, because I was the social butterfly and I've kind of dialed back, and now you're just out there finding things and working into a groove.
That you brought me into.
Well, some of that's my fault. That's true, but
bad fault, not a bad fault. But so a couple of things that come into my head. This is a little side note, but the more we meet, the more I realize how small our circles are.
That's true.
So I'm going to tell you a very quick story. It's a little side note, but I just had a meeting with somebody that was interested in self-publishing, right?
Okay.
And so this was just kind of like a discovery. We were talking, we actually never even talked about books. We talked about everything else. But in our conversation, he tells me this story, because I was making the comments about how self-publishing world is the Wild West. There's some good writers, there's not good writers, if you don't get good feedback, etc. Got it. He says, I resonate with that comment. I have a friend that wrote this book, and he had an amazing story, and he starts telling me about this person from Cambodia and how they escaped and how they became a UN ambassador. And I'm like, oh my God, I know this familiar, right? And I said, well, what's the name of his book? And he's like, Golden Bones. And I went, I know this guy. I met him. And so here he is. That's a good friend of his. I have just met him once, very kind person. And so we were discussing about his book. How obscure is this?
He lives local.
Yeah.
Right? This guy. I've tried to get him to speak at my conference.
Oh, we can probably work on that.
Yeah, we'll talk. Well, he and I have already spoken.
But it's just this small little tiny world. I'm like, wait a minute. How the heck does this guy that I know from a networking group knows this guy from Cambodia, that et cetera, right?
I'll answer it. And then we'll transition to the guest you brought in today.
That leads me to the second point, which is the more you get curious, the more your fingers get into things. And so meeting somebody that wrote a book has led me and this person connecting, and actually
our guest today.
Yeah, our guest today. And so let me lead into it like this. So we've done series, right? We've done different series. And so now our newest one that has popped up because of me being curious has been all about veterans that have made some difficult choices or made not so great choices.
Yeah.
And now they're in trouble with the law,
Mm.
right? Maybe they have a DUI or something like that. And what I found through curiosity was that most states and a lot of the counties in most of those states have what's called a veteran treatment court. And so the civilian world and the legal side of the world recognized that these veterans made bad choices, but it wasn't necessarily all on them, meaning they have significant PTSD. Maybe they're struggling and they're having a hard time in their life, financial, family, depression, whatever's going on.
Or this, can I just insert this? Or this, they come from a really rigid, structured process to now not having that around them.
Right. Yeah. And they have maybe some things going on.
Right.
And then it leads them to make a choice that maybe was not so awesome. Right.
Yeah.
And so the courts recognize this, right? And they're like, we can do this better. So that rolls into our guest, who was one of the people that established the Veteran Treatment Court.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think this is the law of attraction too. And just to qualify that, I don't mean law of attraction as you've gone out and made bad choices and how that's, come here. I mean this from a standpoint of you're out there operating with a heart for veterans, and it presents this increased awareness and puts people in our path, right? We attract like-minded things. Okay,
yes.
now to...
So now rolling into this, right? So we met, and we met via the chamber, and we started having discussions. And so now I went to Judge Stevens, who actually is the one that brought on the veteran court in Comal County.
I love it.
And I was like, hey, do you want to come talk to our audience about the veteran treatment court and about these men and women that are struggling and what you're trying to do to help?
This.
Passionate, right? So I'm going to read a little bit about Judge Stevens, and then we'll formally bring him on. But he's a pretty amazing man. He actually is from Odessa, Texas. And so he's a Texan through and through. And he went to UT Austin, got a Bachelor of Science back in 1981, just a couple of years ago. And then 3-4 years later, he got his Juris Doctorate from St. Mary's. And then he actually opened his first private practice in Canyon Lake in 1989. And, a lot of lawyers specialize, and I'll tell you, the man did it all. He did family law, criminal, juvenile, court, civil litigation, probate, estate. So he is very, very well versed. 2003, he actually got appointed as the first judge of the newly created county court at law number 2. And why is that significant? Because scroll ahead in 2013, specifically August 13th, 2013, and he actually was the one that established the Veteran Treatment Court, and started seeing like, hey, we got to do better by our veterans. So I'm going to introduce him and bring him on. Judge Stevens, it's an honor to have you here. I do want to bring on a couple more fun facts after we talk, but we'll bring those on. I did research on you, so I found out some fun things even after you shared some stuff.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Veterans Treatment Court. I think the more people know, the more people we can help.
Yes, absolutely. And sir, you and I have met a couple times, and you came to our veteran breakfast and you spoke, and everybody was talking about it afterwards. You came on with Mike Fogarty, who's actually going to be, he was on our podcast, and he'll be the person that we interviewed after you. And Mike told me that people were coming up to him looking at how they could help out. So that was pretty cool. So
I thought I had it. Well, yeah, Mike's a great asset to our team, as are the others.
Awesome.
So I want to start with, we already talked about your background and where you've come from. What led you to bring on this Veteran Treatment Court? What was your thought process? How did this come to be? Like, how'd you get involved?
We started looking at it, and of course, I I've been on the bench now since 2004, and we see a lot of veterans. And the one thing that I've noticed about veterans throughout the years when they do appear before you is they are different. They usually are, they'll stand there even at ease, but it's more like attention, because those of us that don't do that, you just don't realize it, but they're standing there. They'll respond appropriately, politely, usually short. And it's frustrating to see and to know that a veteran, as you mentioned, they've been, and this is going back to the Iraqi wars and the things that were happening to them then. They come back and they were fine when they left, and now they've come back. They've seen things that we just can't even imagine, and then we put them back into society, and they do have trouble dealing with all the issues that they deal with as far as coming back into society after being gone on 1, 2, or more deployments, and it affects them. And they'll do things like they'll self-medicate, and self-medications are formed, marijuana, alcohol, perhaps other drugs, and they, so, and it was, you could tie what's going on in their lives now, and the crime that they've alleged to have committed to what happened in their service. Mm-hmm. And understanding that the specialty courts in the state of Texas and across the country it's a relatively new process, but it does give us an opportunity now to take a group of people, and whether it's a DWI court or a drug court or a family court, but take that group of people, in this case, veterans, and they're defined by the fact that they're veterans, not anything else, and work with them with their issues, as opposed to simply say, okay, you've committed the charge, you're charged with driving while intoxicated, you're convicted, you're sentenced to 180 days in jail, we're going to put you on probation, and good luck with the rest of your life. Not that process can't work, but there's a whole lot more behind the scenes going on as far as that veteran's concerned. It's not just they went out and were drinking. They've been drinking or doing drugs for some time, and that they need that extra assistance that we are able to give them. And so we looked at it. We looked at the numbers. How many veterans do we have? We know we have probably now anyway, in excess of 16,000 veterans that live in Comal County. Probably more than that, but at least that many. And there's, as with any population, there's a group of them that do ultimately commit a crime. And when they are charged with that, we try to take them in and work with them in the Veterans Treatment Court.
A question to that, Judge. Being a retired, Air Force member myself, so I know that all those things you're describing are true. There are things that we experience that we'll say civilians, those that have not worn the uniform and had to travel around the world and be engaged in some kind of conflict, they may not have seen those things. I think many of our EMS, though, probably police, fire, emergency, medical professionals, they have probably experienced some pretty tough things as well, unquestionably. My question for you, I think, listening to that is how do you differentiate, Judge, between a veteran that's standing before you, having made a poor choice? How do you differentiate between something that truly is there in their background that may be at play to a veteran who willingly made a poor choice and now may want to seek any avenue they can to excuse it away? I don't know if that makes sense, but I just wonder if there's some kind of, filter that you use to determine.
Couple of things. First, we do have an assessment process. So our goal is to, when a veteran is arrested or charged, especially when they're arrested, we want to know as soon as possible that they are a veteran. And we have a veteran, and as soon as we know wherever they are, we reach out to them and ask them if they're interested in the Veterans Treatment Court process. I have a coordinator that does that. The jail actually has a duty. The sheriff's office has a duty to ask if they are a veteran, but we can also run the list, and so we have methods of finding them, as opposed to just waiting till they come to court. Sometimes it still happens that way,
Sure.
but I'm trying to get them in as fast as we can. They're assessed psychologically, and we talk to them. They're interviewed, and then we have a group, our staff, and I can tell you who those people are in a minute, but our staff, we sit down and we talk about it, and we decide, are we going to let this person into, is it appropriate for them to be in the Veterans Treatment Court? And if we say yes, then they are. They'll plead into it. The other thing is that we're set up, and I think this is particularly special, and the statute allows it, that we can accept a veteran into the Veterans Treatment Court, even if there is not a direct link to what they've done and their service. The fact that they are a veteran makes them eligible to be in the Veterans Treatment Court. And if they want that help, and understand it's actually a lot more work, especially the first few months of the process. A lot of time, a lot of efforts involved in getting them back on track, but there's a lot of things that they wouldn't have to do if they just said, I'll just do 30 days in jail, or I'll just do 12 months probation. It's quite an intense program, especially at the beginning. And if they are interested in it, if they want in it, and we assess them and they're willing to, then we accept them. I have it set up so that it's not an order. I mean, it is in the sense that because we are this adversarial system, but they agree to perform in the Veterans Treatment Court. They agree to participate. They agree to the terms of everything. It's not me just saying this is what you're ordered to do.
Got it.
And so when we get into issues involving whether they're performing or whether they don't want to perform, I remind them that they agreed to do this, and I'm going to bring them through it, kicking and screaming if I have to.
That helps, Judge. I was just curious. Somebody doesn't get to willingly go make a bad choice and then wave a flag of being a veteran and thinking that they're getting off lightly, right? There is a process that you all utilize. I still believe in good, right? I think most people are good. And then things happen, and sometimes bad choices, but everybody deserves an opportunity to be heard and a chance to mea culpa and truly, genuinely seek change.
How many people, I guess let's talk numbers a little bit. How many people are in the treatment court, and how many people opt to say, yeah, I'll do 30 days in jail, or I'll just do probation? I mean, what do those numbers look like?
Well, right now, and we have 28 veterans that are participating at various phases in Veterans Treatment Court. I couldn't tell you how many people have said I don't want to do it because I'm not involved. I don't really get involved until it's presented by the staff, by my coordinators. Here's this particular person is interested in being in the Veterans Treatment Court. Here's the documentation, the assessments, and we talk about it. So I couldn't tell you how many. I'd like to think that we get the ones that really do want the help and seek the help. And I can't think of too many, quite honestly, who've said, no, I don't want to do that. That's too much. We go back and forth with some, and maybe they don't, but the vast majority, I think they have seen the opportunity, have taken advantage of it.
And what do you see the completion rate, these guys? It's 18 months it's set on. Is that correct?
It's 18 months. The first 12 months is the actual program. And then we put them on it's an 18-month probation. Then they have 6 months of what we call the community transition plan. Right. So we're pretty much finished with them. And the last 6 months that they're on probation, or that last part, they're just meeting with the probation officer. So, but if anything comes up during that time, we have the ability to kind of bring them back and refocus and do something else, perhaps if necessary. The main program is 12 months.
Can you tell me what it looks like? So if I was unlucky enough to get this option, or lucky enough, depends on how we're looking at it, right? What can you walk us through briefly what that would look like?
Yes, let me I have a cheat sheet right here.
He knew the question was coming.
we had to, because it gets so the basic, they will plead in, and it's like we do 18 months. The program is designed to be completed in 12 with a transition phase for 6 months. But it's also designed that if they do have relapse, which is, it's not unexpected, it's not a surprise. It's expected for the most part at some point, somehow, a little bit, a lot. Then we have room, to still finish the program. And sometimes we even have to extend that 18 months out to 24 months because we want them to graduate and then have a period of at least 3 to 6 months where they're on this transition plan and we're still monitoring them. Mm. So the first phase is called the orientation and stabilization phase, and it consists of 2 months, 3 months. And during that time, they're kind of getting used to the process. They have to come to court every other week. They have a short-term goal list, a long-term goal list. They have to be substance-free for 30 days. They are drug tested, alcohol tested. Depending, if it was an alcohol charge, they're going to have both the ignition interlock on their vehicle and another device, whether it's a portable breath test or what's called a scram, which is an ankle monitor. They have to be sanction free for 14 days before they can advance. Again, if they violate, if they're, even if as much as they're being late to court or not showing up for court or not showing up for a meeting with a counselor or a group session. Mm. A lot of them go to AA or some other group session during that first 3 months. We do have a program fee of $750. And they have to pay the first $150, but that's the only thing they have to pay. They don't have; those are the only costs related to it. Those costs go really to support the probation office, and they're assisting us and the county clerk's office. They don't go. No one on the staff, myself included, gets any additional money or anything. Right. This, by the way, just to put that out there. I don't want anybody to think that we're getting paid any extra.
But there's a financial investment for them, and that says something,
Yeah, they have to be invested, and we work with them. I mean, a lot of times there's a job problem and things like that. So, and we work with them on all aspects. It is holistic in that sense, with family issues, work issues, housing issues, all the things that I'm sure you've heard about that veterans deal with, and other people too, but that's what we're working with them on. In the second phase, it's an intensive treatment phase. So that's when they're going to go into some of the more specific programs that we have. Some of these programs, if they're eligible for the VA, they can do it through the VA. If they're not eligible, then we have other local entities here and in the surrounding areas that assist us as far as counseling, treatment, and things of that nature. So they'll start doing that. There's some really great programs. One's called Seeking Safety. Another one's Safety at Home. And just whatever treatment program. Sometimes they may actually go into it. They may do it. If there's a particular issue, whether it's drugs or alcohol, they may do inpatient or they may do outpatient treatment. Sometimes they'll actually do that before they come into the Veterans Treatment Court, but sometimes it does occur during Veterans Treatment Court. And again, they have the sanction-free aspect to it and substance-free, no positive UAs for our drug tests for 60 days. And so that's how, when I see, if they get a positive, then if they get a sanction, and they're almost ready to phase up, then they have to wait 30 days more from that. So it has to be 30 days more from that. And one other thing that we do that I think is kind of special in our Veterans Court, everybody has their own little things that they like to do to help the veterans, and positive enforcement, reinforcement, and sanctions, as I mentioned, is we have cards that are donated. And we have the ability to accept donations. It's not deductible, but the county does receive donations. Actually, if you're a juror, this is my spiel here. If you're a juror, you can actually donate the money you earn as a juror to the Veterans Treatment Court.
Wow.
Yep.
We've got a substantial amount of money. And I kind of use that as a rainy day fund, or if there's money we need to spend for a particular counselor that we can't use, we're grant funded for a lot of things that we don't have any other funds for. We can do it for that. We can use it for educational purposes, some. But then also we get the cards donated. People, on the grind, Whataburger, Starbucks, whatever. And if that veteran's done particularly well over the last several weeks or month, however long, 2 or 3 meetings that they've come to court, then we'll give them an incentive card. And I usually let them choose.
That's positive reinforcement, and you had me at on the grind, Judge. Hey, Judge, I'm curious. I'm curious where your heart, where you develop this heart for veterans. Always appreciative. Donna as a veteran, and I don't know if you have family members, even, Judge, that have maybe served. But it's not that I go out into the world wanting anybody to acknowledge, that I chose to serve. But I will tell you, it sure is touching and meaningful to know that there are people who appreciate and care that someone raised their right hand and said, "I will." So how did you develop this heart for this cause?
Well, it's an opportunity. And, the thing I will say that's frustrating about the criminal justice system, if it is kind of set up and there's a lot of things where it's just sort of pigeonholed, more so than I want it to be, because you really want to be able to work with these people. And it was an opportunity. Here's a group of people that we're not working with that we can now. When these specialty courts started coming around, and veterans courts have only been around for, I want to say it's less than 15 years. I couldn't. So very, very, very young, and we're all a little bit different. It's just an opportunity. My father and his brothers were all veterans. I am not. There's parts of me that regret that, just because. Unfortunately, I grew up during the Vietnam War, and the thing that scared my father to death was I was going to have to go to Vietnam.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I actually turned 18, I didn't have to sign up. There was they had canceled the draft entirely at that point for a few years. So I didn't. So it's an opportunity to give back and to thank those veterans, and thank all the veterans really for the service that they have done for us, and hopefully more people that are around what we do appreciate more what veterans do for us and for our country.
Well, you are serving, Judge. That's what I would say, and just thank you for having the heart for veterans and this opportunity. I on a lighter note, I personally hope to never stand before you, but I would be honored to stand beside you anytime.
Nobody wants my autograph.
No.
I do not want your autograph, sir.
Not at all. Not at all. So when they get through, right? So let's just say they make it the 12 months. This is what I love. Like you said, every court has its nuance in their little something different. And the one thing the Comal County Veteran Court has that other counties do not necessarily have is the mentoring program, right?
Well, that's the unique thing about the Veteran Treatment Court program is that, and all of them, I'm not sure that all of them do have mentors, but we certainly do.
Yeah.
And I've always said, and Mike Fogarty and I, we kid about it with each other, but what he does, and as far as training the mentors and working with them is probably, and the mentors there, I think that's the most important and the best part about the Veterans Treatment Court program, because you have somebody there. I've heard in the military, the battle buddy, those kind of things. They're there to assist that veteran, to lift them up, to push them forward, not to do the job for them, but to push them forward and to help them, good, bad, or indifferent. And I encourage those relationships. We treat that relationship really sacrosanct from the standpoint. I never talked to a mentor and asked, what did he say? What did y'all do? Or there's never anything about their relationship that comes into play when I'm deciding what the next step is for that veteran, as far as whether they should be, something should happen, or, whatever they said, that's their doing. Whatever they did, that's their doing.
Right. Yeah. It's, we have Mike next. He follows you on the podcast order. Yeah. And, that is a critical piece, like to be able to make that, human connection, not in an official status, right? Because, they're connecting with you guys too, but you cannot have the same relationship. You can't go, come on, I think you need to go fishing. You can't go jump off the bench and grab the fishing pole. But that's what these mentors can do, and say, hey, you know what? Why aren't you just bent off so you don't go make a reaction? Because that's a huge issue when you're dealing with people with PTSD that don't have the tools yet to know how to handle. They become reactionary, and it's those reactions that sometimes can go too far. Yeah, so if there's a way, they learned it in the military too. They've embedded psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists and stuff within like special forces, because they learned if these guys can just decompress and talk about it and get it off, they actually are processing it, and they can go on and not have the same issues.
There's a difference between respond and react.
Yes.
Right. That's the way my brain.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, okay. And I'm going to tell you that, when you were asking about like what his connection is and giving back. So there's a fun fact about Judge Stevens, that you were an Eagle Scout, weren't you?
I am an Eagle Scout.
You are.
I was waiting for that.
Like a Marine, is.
That's true.
And your son's an Eagle Scout, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very small percentage too.
Very
right?
much
people
so.
who go through the program and come out the other side.
Yeah. A friend of mine's son's an Eagle Scout, and
it's a lot.
When he became official Eagle Scout, it was a huge ceremony, and
it's a big deal. They
told me the process, and I was like, wow, yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, that's the key to that is the commitment that you make.
Yes.
Something else, that's for a young man, and that's a 7-year commitment. And
wow.
That's why it's so important. That's why it means so much to colleges and wherever you go.
Well, in part, Judge, too, I think, not to take us off track, but part of someone achieving that, there's actually a huge community project piece attached to the end of that, right? Before you finish everything.
Your Eagle Scout project, yes.
Yeah. So you're demonstrating your heart and willingness to persevere.
I mean, really, it's a similar mindset to the military, right? So, when we're in the military, we make a commitment. It definitely isn't a fly by night. You are committing a time frame, whether it's a tour of 2 to 4 years or whether it's an entire career. You make a commitment and you are fully engaged. I mean, that is your whole life,
It's not quite as rigid, I would say, but yeah.
Maybe not as quite intense, but there's still that similarity there of commitment, And so in that sense, I think that, I see how you can kind of see this group of people and you can in some level relate to it. They committed, they gave, they did their time, and like you said, they went to places and saw things that people just shouldn't see, and they're coming back different now. So, I think you have a relationship on the commitment platform.
Judge, I've got two questions kind of interrelated. The first one is, maybe you, if you wouldn't mind, can you share maybe some misperceptions about what Veterans Court isn't? And 2, where do you still aspire to see this program grow or transform?
You took my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Podcast, he'll take one of my questions.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You should give me your notes ahead of time.
Well, I think the only maybe misperception is, and we try to squelch that immediately, is this is going to be easier than regular probation. It's going to be easier than doing something else. It's not. We had the 4 phases, and each phase has different aspects to it. And it does loosen up a little bit as far as the amount of time you have in court. But it's not easy. It's not intended to be easy. They have to work, and where you really realize when you're having some impact is that they'll have this aha moment, and they'll start getting it, and then they start rolling. Because until then, sometimes they're just butting heads with you, and something will happen, something will click, whether it's at a group meeting, whether it's a therapy session or something, and they go, oh, I get it. And then they'll start really digging in and really start working. But, when you've got PTSD or traumatic brain injury, we also deal with the military sexual trauma, which is extremely difficult. They'll be fight. You can tell that you're having an impact when they push back harder and harder, because as y'all probably know, when it's one thing, it's one thing if they've been drinking just to push it aside, but once you make them stop drinking and once you make them face it and deal with it, they push back harder. Say, I don't need it. I'm not an alcoholic, or I'm not a drug addict. I can do this. And they finally can become convinced that, no, I need help. And this is where I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
We got the other question. Oh, where do I see the program going?
Yes.
Well, the good question. We're set up right now to have about 30 veterans on average in any given year that we work with, and that seems to work pretty well. We could probably take more. I mean, we're not saying we don't just stop and say, well, no, we've already got 30, we can't take any more. We actually have never said it filled up, in the sense of, oh my gosh, we've had some busy times. Pre-COVID, we were starting to push it, and we dropped off with everything else, but we're coming back now. And I would say in the next couple of years, we'll probably easily get 30 or more. I think for the size of Comal County that it is, it seems to be working pretty well. I will say we never rest. I'm constantly, we go to conferences and you read and see stuff and looking at things, and there's always, all the time, we're trying to improve. We go through, they have the national organization has training sessions that we attend, and then actually we've been trained here. They come here and they work with us and they watch and we talk and do those kind of things. And there's always change going on, and I would hope that it's one of those things where I hope we never just get in a rut where we're just doing the same thing, or just doing it day in and day out. I'm always looking for better ways, new ways, more advanced, whatever help we can get.
Yes.
People wise, I would say, if we got 30 to 45 in a year, that would be very good. The only, I don't expect that we're going to be as big as, like Bear County, which has hundreds, but the size defines that. But it's, but just mainly just kind of keeping things fresh is my goal.
Yeah.
I'll be around for a little while longer. Won't be here forever, but I do want it to continue after I retire.
Yeah. And actually, this is kind of where the judge and I started kind of talking. And the 15th, we actually have a meeting, don't we? We're bringing, I call it the meeting of the minds. And so there's a couple key people. Mike Fogarty's coming. Good. Somebody from the city council, Chris Willis, is coming in. We've got the chamber, coming in. I'm coming in as the chamber and my veteran advocacy business itself. The advocacy part, and we're coming in together to just knock heads and figure out the big blocks that we want to tackle. Where are the gaps, right? And what gaps that the judge and his team are seeing, and are there resources to fill it? And so we're looking at different things right now, and so I'm excited for that meeting.
No, yeah. I love that.
Yep. Yeah. Yep, talk to everybody, and we're gonna have a little powwow.
Judge, this is a voluntary thing that you do, right? Nobody mandated that
No.
you do this or requested you to do this. Again, we've already established you're passionate about this, believe in it, and it's a way of serving and giving back. When you look out across other judges that are overseeing these programs in other counties, do you all, just as from the bench, get together to kind of share what you're seeing and exchange ideas?
Not enough, a little bit. That's the one thing I've learned about being working in government or with the county in this position is you're so busy working and doing the things that need to be done. The hardest part about any of this is getting it started, because just like what we're trying to do, Donna, with the council, with those things, trying to get groups together to help us out and things like that, just getting it started. Once we get it started, then it'll take off and it'll go, it can operate on its own. But the big time crunch is just getting the ball rolling. It took us a good 2 or 3 years before we actually got things rolling. Just to get everything organized and understand what you're trying to do, understand the process, seeing what other courts did. But any court I went to during that time, could stay. The staffings are private; they're confidential, but they would let you go. They'd let me sit in the staffings. And since I've become the Veterans Treatment Court judge here, I've had other judges reach out to me who are interested in starting a Veterans Treatment Court, and I'll offer whatever services we have. All of our documentation that we use is online. Anybody can look at it. We actually require the veteran who's looking at it to come in to review that information with an attorney. As soon as they say they're interested, we appoint an attorney to represent them so they can get the ball rolling, and they have a chance to review all the paperwork and everything. So that's all there. And then we do have a couple of conferences that the state of Texas has an annual conference of what we specialty court. So it's not just veterans court, but the judges do have an opportunity then to meet and talk about things and see what others are doing, talk about what we're doing. And then the national conference, which is huge.
Right.
We just went to that. We got the team to go. We were able to get the team there to, let's see, was it Nashville? No, it was Nashville. Yeah. Nashville this past year. And that was very good. It's an opportunity for the team to get together and feel good in their skin and get to know everybody better, just at a little different level. Different, as opposed to always just working. So,
just curiosity question. When you started this in 2015, I'm kind of going backwards a little bit, but when you saw this in 2015, was there a veteran court that you saw that you're like, hey, I think we should do this? Or was this something that you kind of were putting together yourself, like, hey, we need to do something for the veterans? Or with the combo?
I kind of decided that there was the Veterans Treatment Court was a model that existed at the time, but it's the youngest of all the models.
Yeah,
basically. But and I decided I thought we needed one in this county.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we started working with all the people that would be involved in the court in the judicial system, the DA's office, prosecutors, and probation and those groups, and trying to just put our heads together and figure out how we want to do it. And you start looking at other courts, how they do it. I went to San Antonio for one. Of course, that's much bigger, but it's still an opportunity to see how somebody runs it and what they do. And then you go to conferences where one of the things that I've gone to more than once is the military culture or meetings or sessions, and just to learn a little bit more about military culture, and even the finer things of understanding that some people, they don't identify as veterans, they don't want to be called a veteran.
Good point.
Because the maybe the service wasn't that wasn't a positive experience for them.
Yes.
So you have to, and so I actually refer to them as U.S. service member. When I call them up to the bench, I call up U.S. service member number, U.S. service member John Doe. I don't call veteran John Doe up or Marine, because maybe, the Marines weren't the best thing for them. They got out, they got in and they didn't like it and they got out, but, or something happened. So just things like that you have to be sensitive to. But we talk about those things. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. And those are also the same ones that will not go for their VA benefits because they want no association. It's very difficult for them. So they don't want to, in their mind, if they go get their VA benefits, just one more thing, the government is involved with them and they don't want anything to do with it anymore. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love, Judge, that you refer to him as service member. Very much so. I think the last statistic I heard, probably still true, may even be smaller today than what it was even 10 years ago. Only 1% of our nation's citizens will ever wear our nation's uniform. So it is a very, very small population.
Yes, it is. It is.
That wasn't my idea. That was part of the culture that I learned.
All right. So I think it's time to kind of wind it down. So in this part, we just kind of see if there's any last thoughts. But before I get there, I need to ask you this question, because I said I did a little background on you and I found some fun facts. Like he put this out there too, but he's happily married to his wife, Kathleen, 38 or 39 years, sir.
It'll be 39 in May.
Okay. That's amazing.
Because where I saw it was a little bit older and I was adding it up and I'm like, I don't know where their anniversary is. 3 children, right? Maggie, Scott, and Celie, correct?
Correct.
And 6 grandchildren, is that correct?
Yes.
And 6 grandchildren.
That's fun.
So he's
a busy guy.
Robust life. 2 fun facts. 1, you like to work in the workshop, don't you?
Yes.
Woodworking guy.
Oh, I wish I had that talent.
And he had a bucket list item that I was curious if you actually accomplished. This is a bucket list item that my husband, I told him this, and he's like, oh, I'm so jealous because he wants to do this. Did you actually go walk the El Camino Santiago?
Yes.
Yay.
It was, I will tell you that was, I'm 65 now. I'll be 66 in September. It was one of my 60th birthday gifts from my wife that I could do the Camino. My sister had done it and she offered to do it with me. And so I was supposed to go that was 2007. I was supposed to go in 2018. I ended up, long story, that in the hospital. They had nothing to Camino.
Yeah.
Missed it that year. And then we pushed it to 2020. That was COVID.
Right.
I got to do it in over June and July last summer, 2020.
Oh, that's nice. How far is that, Judge?
It's as far, you have to do a minimum of 100 kilometers to get the certificate.
Right.
And we did 200. We started in Porto, Portugal, and walked to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. And there was one day, another long story. But I took a day off. I had some feet problems. So I think it's actually a bit closer to 230 or 40 kilometers. So, but we did 200. So as long as you do 100, you get the certificate, which actually is, I don't know if you can't see it very well. It's back here.
Oh yeah.
I like it.
And you get to Santiago and of course you see St. James burial site and it's really, really, really neat.
You're planting a seed in me, Judge. I'm 55 and I'm always setting bucket list kinds of things in front of me. I may have to put that as my 60th.
You can come with us because Brian, my husband, is like, he loves to do long hikes. Actually, he has one coming up for a week. And every single time he goes and plans the hike, something happens, like rain out and they close it or something. But he's like, we're doing the El Camino. I'm telling you, Donna. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
Great. Let me know. I'll go with you.
Hey, that's amazing.
We're game for it. So I just thought those were fun. I thought that was pretty neat to see that. So
I was also given a whiskey tour up at Kentucky, whiskey trail.
Oh, come on.
I hadn't done that yet.
That may be my 56th.
My husband will also be on board with you there. So
that's fun.
I shouldn't tell him this. He'll push me.
Yeah.
You might see him at the meeting on the 15th instead of me. Who knows? So walking and whiskey. My husband's in heaven. Yep.
Yeah, I like
good.
it.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple things as we start to land this episode, Judge. Number one, again, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the time you've spent with us today. We hope our listeners are mining some good from this. I think if they're like me, many are unaware that this is even out there. I'm a quote guy. I pulled one up that I know and I'm willing to bet you've all heard before, but I wanted to make sure I got the wording right. It says, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Martin Luther King Jr. Yep. And Judge, you sure are doing for others. And any final thoughts, things that maybe didn't just naturally come out during our conversation that you would want people to walk away with?
Just please, know that we are here. We, when you sit in your own silo too long, sometimes you think that everybody knows about you, but they don't. But obviously from our discussion, even from meeting Donna and the Bull Verde people chamber, there was not as much as I knew. So I was surprised at that. So I jump at the opportunity to talk to people about it, let them know we're here. We're here to help the veterans as much as we can. And I need to make sure that y'all are on our graduation list so you get invited to the next graduation.
Absolutely. We'd love it.
They're not scheduled. I have the one coming up, though. I've promised one of the veterans has been running a training to run. And I've promised that I would run I think we're going to either run a 5K, a 5K with him.
Nice.
After the graduation, that day after the graduation.
Nice.
Oh, we got to mention this. He is very fit.
Oh,
so
I can tell.
So when we went to our first meeting, right, this cracked me up, right? And my background's in fitness and my master's of sports science and, all that good stuff, right? So one of the guys there and him were talking, and he was like, yeah, the judge loves to work out. And he's real that. And Judge Stevens looks up, barely changes expression. And he goes, I'm still here, Chris. I work out every morning whenever you're ready. I just cracked up laughing because he was like, yes, Judge. You can see him kind of straight back. And I went,
that's funny.
He whoops your butt. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I cracked up. And I think that's awesome. I think that's great.
I enjoy it. It's helping keep me healthy, I think.
Amen. I work out every morning faithfully that I'm not this morning I had to be running around my daughter, but otherwise, yes, it is sanity for me. So, and Jay, he's the 5K. He loves to go run 5Ks. So if you need somebody else to tag along, I'll volunteer him for you.
I'll do it for sure. Judge, I know we're going all over the place.
We are. I'm sorry.
Judge, I'm a huge Pelotoner. I've recently fallen in love with a Peloton bike. I'm very competitive. So when I can see on the screen where others are in front of me, particularly when they're 20, 30 years younger than me, I'm tracking them down.
No, I'm not that fast.
You're just steady wins the race. So.
Also, know this last graduation, I was supposed to cook barbecue for them, but I couldn't because I was too tight. So I've promised that too.
Remind me, tell me about that because I might have a solution for you on that one. All right. So we're going to wind this down because I think we chat all day about everything.
I love every bit of this.
I do. So I'm just going to leave everybody with this. There is always ways to get involved. And I will tell you that this is a very worthy cause because we know that if you are a veteran, you've been there, you've done that, you've won the t-shirt, and maybe you are not somebody that's made that critically bad choice. And now it's costing you, but maybe you can be an inspiration for somebody that has done that. Or maybe you have made that bad choice and maybe you have been down that road and you can even be better example to say, look, it doesn't define you. You can still go on and do other things. And I will say, because Judge Stevens said this to me, he said there is not enough female mentors. There are more that are needed. Kind of looked at me. We're getting there. I got clear schedules here, but there needs to be more representation. And so I put that out to everybody that if you are interested and you're not sure what to do, give a holler. email us, write us, call us. We will definitely get you in touch wherever you need to be. It's not a problem. So on behalf of everybody here from Beyond the Front Line and our parent podcast, Coming Home Well, we thank all of our listeners for liking, following, sharing, talking. The more we talk and the more we connect, the better we're going to be. So we all have a wonderful week.
Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Front Line, a podcast of Coming Home Well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well.